tabletop role-playing game Ask Me Anything 2024. We're doing this bizarre list, well, a version of bizarre list. We revisit this about once a year to see if anything's changed since the last time, a year ago today. So we've gone through most of this. Always really is left is my craziest in-game experience and my best in-game story. But first, I wanted to talk about what inspired me to do this 12 years ago. Yes, Condor, it's been 12 years. What inspired me to do this? You know, who were my role models when I first started doing this? You know, and Matt Bromund gave me the idea originally 12 years ago. And I was at the house before that house that was Site A. I'm sitting in this teeny little room and I'm doing this for the first time, talking about Seth's games and anime and posting on Facebook and really deciding, hey, this is maybe something I could do. What were my inspirations? Who was I looking for? What was I looking at on YouTube 12 years ago? And obviously, we got to start with Huell Hauser, right? I don't think Huell Hauser gets enough recognition for what he has done for this. I mean, YouTubing, VTubing, virtual tubing, virtual documentaries, just this. I mean, it all traces back to public access. It all traces back to that wonderful man with his camera crew just going out there and embracing his love for just everyday world and everyday people and hidden little things. And growing up watching Huell Hauser and his little adventures, and I was always like, that's what I wanted to do. So it all goes back to Huell Hauser. But when I started this, my big inspirations were, from the gaming point of view, it was Hank, Runehammer Hank, watching his stuff all those years ago. Zach Smith's I Hit It With My Axe. That was really an early inspiration for me. And it wasn't because they were, hot porn stars. No, it never occurred to my mind that I'm watching porn stars, you know, other than occasionally they dressed up scantily or mentioned porn star stuff. But for the most part, I loved Zach's imagination. And I loved how the girls resolved problems. It was often very creative, sometimes silly. Sometimes, yeah, there was sex involved. But often, you know, it was just basically, he had this is before Zach went, you know, the weirdest. He had this go ahead, try anything mentality. And the girls, not coming from any place where they had the mentality that they couldn't do something, they would just try the most ridiculous things to resolve. You know, one stands out was one of them threw a blanket over a guard's head to try and blind him temporarily. And, you know, that's just like, it came out of left field, but it was very creative. So it was that. It was early Hank stuff. And obviously the early Acquisitions Incorporated stuff that Chris Perkins was doing with Penny Arcade. Those were the gaming people that I was looking at. Non-gaming wise, I was very inspired by Adam the Woo. I was very inspired by Justin Scard. I was very inspired by people who were just doing food reviews. You know, these guys would just come on and talk about, you know, a Snickers, and they get hundreds of thousands of views. And I was like, why can't I do that? But it was just that, you know, the early days of YouTube 12 years ago, before things got toxic and weird, and just people were just making videos about everything. There weren't really any camps. You know, if you were an early tabletop role-playing game YouTuber before Critical Role, there was very little you couldn't talk about. People appreciated my insight on the hobby and the history, and appreciated my posts and talks. I mean, really, even back then, there was only two people that came up against me regularly and fought against what I had to say, both of whom I have had multiple encounters with over the years, obviously that being Condor and Garrity. But for the most part, you know, people appreciated what I had to say. I didn't start getting other than occasionally being called a toxic gatekeeper, I didn't really start getting insulted and threatened until the whole Critical Role thing started, you know, 2018. But from 2012 to 2014, when I was broadcasting, before I moved to Site A and then Site B, you know, it was just, I was talking about the games I was running at CES. I was talking about Power Rangers. I was talking about dungeon building. I was talking about just whatever came to mind. The character that I was back then was completely different than the character I was portraying back now. And as years have progressed, obviously my tabletop role-playing game YouTube inspirations, heroes, there's a few that have added to the list. There's some people who I like what they've done, but I don't like the way they've done it, but I can respect how they've exceeded me. I mean, a year ago, 2 years ago, when I first saw Double D starting to broadcast, if you told me he'd get as many subs as he has today, I was like, nah, I don't think that, But look at him now. And while I don't always agree with Double D, I think, and I've had some, not nice things to say about him in the past, but I'm, whatever. Generally, I have nothing but respect for his grind. I have nothing for respect for the support he's received. I wish I could have received half that support. But yeah, so definitely watching people grow like that. And then of course, since the pandemic, 2020, 2019, when I discovered VTubers and Iron Mouse, obviously you can't talk about how my YouTubing has changed, how my goals have changed, how I wanted to do with change, how I've tried to emerge from the negative, toxic place I was in 2020. And it's all basically traces back to Iron Mouse and Hakura and Henya and Mel, and listening to them every night, during the pandemic, and just laughing hysterically and watching their adventures, and just watching these people who hung out together and played games and, generally at least appeared to love each other and got along and supported each other, and didn't care, and I was like, that inspired me to really start the grind with YouTube, because selfishly, I had this goal, still have this goal, that I would like to play Minecraft with Iron Mouse. I would like to talk to Hakura. She is my female counterpart. She's my Oshi, to go through the depression that I've gone through, to go through coming out over the years on YouTube, to go through the discrimination, to go through the hostility, to go through all the bullshit Garrity put me through, and Condor still puts me through, and people like Driving and Dragons, and all the years and years of toxicity and threats and death threats and insults and being called names, and just taking that in and just sitting alone in Site A. During the pandemic, I'd lost my job. I was spending every hour on the hour wheeling and dealing, using that free time to fix everything that had been broken in my life, to make sure I got the money, and to really jump over that hurdle. I was at this, suddenly I had all this free time, and suddenly, I had money. It wasn't a lot of money at first, but I had money. I had the unemployment. I had the retirement. I had the disability had just come in, which was like a huge weight off my shoulder. And I wanted to stop being the person I was when I was broadcasting at Site A. And I know this is silly, and I know people give me shit about it, but it was Iron Mouse. It was Iron Mouse. It was Zentrea. It was Mel. It was Hakura. It was listening to them every night before I went to sleep, and just laughing, and just wanting to meet these people. So that's definitely my more recent inspirations for why I do this, but it all goes back to Matthew Bromund suggesting I give it a try. And I went onto YouTube, tried to figure out how to do this video thing, how many years has it been? 2012, 2014. So 10 years later, I still have no idea what I'm doing. I definitely continuously run up against the technological roadblock, continuously run up against the inability to progress, because I don't have the software, I don't have the computer, I'm never in the financial position to really invest into this like I want to, because becoming a full-time VTuber would require a setup that I can't afford, so I'm hunting and pecking and square peg hammering holes to get to where I am. And I know it could be better, but it's just without the support, without the money, without, it's just me by myself still in this big old house with nothing but a cat, So there's definitely goals I would like to achieve in 2025. I would like to start being on Twitch, because I think the Twitch has a wider audience. I think it's more forgiving. It seems to be generally more positive, at least what little I watch of Twitch. And there's people I would like to meet. And I think, you know, if I want to take this YouTubing, VTubing thing to the next step, I have to broaden my horizons, because, you know, it's been 10 years and I'm still struggling to get 2,000 subs. And I look at people who's been doing it for 2 minutes and they've got more subs than I do. And I'm like, okay, I'm doing everything. So what am I doing wrong? Or is it just that I do not fit the bucket? So, you know, those are my goals. Those are my aspirations. I got to say, you know, as much as I rub salt in the wound, I mean, you know, if Condor DM hadn't said repeatedly the shit he'd said about me over and over again, it would not have inspired me to be better than him, to stop, you know, lowering myself to that level of petty nonsense. And I mean, let's face it, the guy is my best employee. I know he says horrible things about me, but why would I have anything bad about you to say about you, dude, other than what you've, you know, pointing out the obvious? You're my best employee. Every time you open your mouth about me, I get more subs. You give me way more free press than I could ever get from anybody else. I mean, 10 freaking years of you shit talking me, shit talking my friends. So God love the guy. As much as I think he's a carny piece of shit, I mean, if he hasn't, you know, didn't keep talking about me. But yeah, so, you know, I wouldn't be where I was today if it had not been for Matthew Bromund originally suggesting it. I wouldn't be I don't think any of us would be here today doing the YouTube VTubing thing, public access thing, if it wasn't for Huell Hauser. I don't think he gets enough recognition, like I said. So those are my inspirations. Those are why I have done what I've done. And that's where I am today. That's where I want to be. The person I want to be, you know, in YouTube is somebody that can make money off of this, obviously. Somebody who can feel positive about this and add positivity to this and can hang around. You know, there's cool people in the Twitterverse who I just like. Those people seem like people I'd want to hang out with. You know, it's kind of time to just continue to reach out. I think I've taken YouTube as far as I can go after 10 years. Without a significant amount of money and education, I don't think I could push the YouTube algorithm any further. So it's interesting to me to explore Blue Sky, to explore Rumble, to explore Twitter, to explore Twitch, and to see if that's the place I need to go to make more money and to get more recognition and to get more people in my YouTube, VTube social circle that makes me want to continue to do this. So to each and every one of you who have supported me all the way back to my very first subscriber, Robert McAllister, thank you very much, each and every one of you. We'll be back with more of this nonsense all the way up to New Year's Eve. If you have any questions you'd like to ask me, please let me know. Otherwise, have a great afternoon, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.